Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Yesterday, Cliff Sora shared a top 10 list of hot fusion restaurants, a vegan gluten-free mashup recipe, and a podcast featuring organic food trends. Oh, TMI? Too much internet information. That's oversharing. Cliff, Geico has something worth sharing with your friends. Like how on Geico.com you could save hundreds on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim. Gluten-free info that's easy to swallow. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Blog Talk Radio.
Why are you here?
To get some money.
What kind of money?
Obama money.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida.
Where's it coming from?
Obama.
Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy.
Where did Obama get it?
I don't know. It's fast. I don't know.
You can follow Brian on Twitter and Facebook and listen to archived shows at briancraigshow.com.
I don't know where he got it from, but he giving it to us to help us. We love him. That's why we voted for him.
And now, Brian Craig.
All right, and welcome to another edition of the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Welcome to the program, everyone. And the Brian Craig Show, we transmit live video of the podcast on Periscope at Brian Craig Show. And the Brian Craig Show, you can catch this episode and all of our past episodes all over the place, including iTunes, Stitcher Radio, the TuneIn Radio app. Just go to those apps and search for The Brian Craig Show, and all of our past episodes, 400 about of them, will come up. And visit our website, briancraigshow.com. Follow us on Twitter at Brian Craig Show. And on Facebook, facebook.com/Brian Craig Show. All right, well, we got a lot to talk about. Kathy's on the line and still a little under the weather. And we got a lot to talk about. Yeah, before we get into President Trump, I got to just talk for a moment about this El Chapo Sean Penn business.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, Sean Penn seems to be kind of a jerk most of the time. But I got to tell you, Sean Penn is probably the most interesting man in America, or maybe even the world. Who's that guy that does those commercials, the most interesting man in the world?
Yeah.
Sean Penn is, he still makes movies. There's a movie with Sean Penn on Netflix. I forgot what it's called. I saw it a couple weeks ago where he plays a corporate hitman. And it was great.
He's a good actor.
And I've liked Sean Penn. The first thing I can remember seeing Sean Penn in was an HBO movie. I think it was called Bad Boys, where he was like a kid that went to prison.
Yeah, he was like at a reform school. Yeah, that was good.
Reform school? I don't know. And then he was in Vision Quest with Christopher Walken. I've always liked Sean Penn.
He was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
No. Yeah, Fast Times at Ridgemont High was the first thing.
Vision Quest was Matthew Modine.
Yeah, not Vision Quest. At Close Range. He was in At Close Range with Christopher Walken.
Saw that.
Yeah, At Close Range. It's a great movie. Madonna, he was married to Madonna. She did the theme song.
They're back together.
That's what you told me, Madonna and...
They are dating. They've been dating for a few months now.
Well, this thing with El Chapo and Sean Penn, most do-gooder liberal types talk the talk, but Sean Penn was living for a long time. He may still live in a tent in Haiti after the earthquake.
Yeah. But what is his obsession with these nefarious characters? I mean, he meets with the head of Cuba. He's met with the head of Venezuela. Yeah. He meets with all these dictators. He meets with El Chapo. Maybe, I don't know, what's your theory?
Well, I think Sean Penn, I really do think Sean Penn was part of a government operation to get El Chapo. I really do. I don't know if it was CIA or the Mexicans. Sean Penn, you might disagree with his politics, and he is a very good actor, by the way. What was that movie he was in that Clint Eastwood directed? Tim Robbins was in it.
Mystic River.
Mystic River. I mean, I really like Sean Penn.
Maybe it's all up
Mystic
front.
River.
Maybe him being a commie-loving, liberal, left-wing a-hole is really a front,
That's
and
right.
he's really a right-wing, patriotic, conservative CIA operative.
You know, I would not be surprised.
That's been working for the government.
Because Sean Penn likes to hang out with Chavez and praise Chavez. I'm sure he's meant Castro. I don't know. You know, it would be very possible. I with this El Chapo thing, I could see Sean Penn actually working for the CIA. I know that sounds crazy, and I know that someone just said, well, the CIA was tracking Sean Penn. Maybe, but I think it's more likely Sean Penn was working with the CIA and the Mexican government to get El Chapo, because you might disagree with Sean Penn's politics, and I'm guessing I do. He seems to be kind of a liberal guy. I remember, Sean Penn, people forget this, and we made fun of Sean Penn at the time, but what I'm about to tell you, you'll remember as soon as I tell you, and it kind of fits into this CIA thing. Prior to the war in Iraq, this Operation Iraqi Freedom, the GW war in Iraq, months before, might have even been weeks before, Sean Penn went to Iraq, met with the government, traveled the country. They took him on a tour of their installations, and he had a camera and was doing like an inspection tour of Iraq before the war.
Saying.
And I'm telling you, there's a history.
I think he's working for the government because he's an actor. He gets all this access. He's meeting with all these people. I'm not kidding.
I agree with you.
I think it's a good theory.
Agree with you. I agree with you. I think Sean Penn. I know this sounds crazy, and I'm not a conspiracy person. I'm not Alex Jones. I'm not into the Bilderbergers and the Illuminati and any of that nonsense. But I think it is very, very possible that Sean Penn works for the CIA. There's a history of actors doing this because they have access. Who was the guy that played Leslie in Gone with the Wind, who was a spy for the Brits?
No, his name was Leslie Howard. He played Ashley.
He played Ashley Wilkes and Leslie Howard. Yeah, and he was killed in the
he was a spy for the British.
Actors, Houdini. Houdini, when he traveled on his magical tour in Europe, was spying on the. Actors have access.
Houdini worked for the government too. He did.
Yeah, and I know people think it's funny, but when you say Sean Penn, it never would have occurred to me until this getting El Chapo.
Well, maybe it wasn't supposed to come out that he met with him and somebody blew his cover a little bit.
I don't know. I don't know, but I listen. I'm a conservative guy, but I like Sean Penn. I've grown up with Sean Penn since Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I think.
Nobody can be that big of an a-hole. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's got to be an act.
I've seen him talking about Chavez like he was Jesus. I mean, he and it,
I'm serious, but maybe Dennis Rodman's a CIA operative too.
Dennis Rodman with his trips to North Korea, it wouldn't surprise me. Dennis Rodman is no dummy. When he was on Donald Trump's Celebrity Apprentice, I was pretty impressed with Dennis Rodman.
I thought he was pretty stupid.
But this business with
maybe
El
that's
Chapo,
an act too.
And this Mexican actress who looks the further away she is, the hotter she is. I saw some close-ups of her. She's pretty. She's prettier from far away. But this was a definite operation to get El Chapo. I mean, there's just no getting around it. I must say, I'm pretty impressed with Sean Penn. I really am pretty impressed with Sean Penn. And going there.
I never thought I'd hear those words come out of your mouth.
No, I've always liked this movie. If you have Netflix, go to Netflix new releases. I saw it a few weeks ago. I don't know the name of it. It's a Sean Penn movie where he plays a hitman, and it's really good. I mean, I haven't seen Sean Penn in a new movie.
Yeah, see, I think this picture of El Chapo in the story, like somebody said in the chat, it drew him out. Like, I think he was exposed where he wasn't supposed to, because it's when you think about it, the more you think about it, the more sense it makes. Seriously, he meets with all these dictators. He seemingly loves them. That is very contradictory to him helping the people of Haiti who, are very poor. And why would he meet with dictators and if he's so helpful towards really poor people in these third world countries, it's really, I don't know. It's a good theory. You never know.
Remember that ridiculous book? They turned it into a movie. The guy from the Gong Show said he was a CIA op. What was that guy's name? Ferris? What was the guy's name from the Gong Show? I forgot his name. Chuck Barris.
I used to watch the Gong Show.
Barris.
Chuck Barris, yeah.
Yeah, Chuck
and
Barris.
The movie was
I used to watch. Yeah, Chuck Barris. And you know, that was kind of like a parody that Chuck Barris said he worked for the CIA. I love the Gong Show and the Unknown Comic and all that. I used to watch that every day when I was a kid. But this business with El Chapo, you know, I mean, that's Sean Penn took a risk, you know, and El Chapo still has his money and connections. Sean Penn's at risk right now.
He is
doing this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think it was meant to get out. I mean, it's got to upset El Chapo that he helped, whether it was on purpose or inadvertently, helped him to get caught. That I would be very afraid if I was Sean Penn right now. Seriously. I would that.
I wonder,
very nervous.
You know, it's so funny because you know remember this Valerie Plame business and all this stuff is, you know, she worked in a cubicle. She wasn't doing it. You know, Sean Penn's out there in the field, and I'm wondering if Sean Penn's cover is blown, is he going to stop associating with Chavez type people? You know what I mean? Is he going to stop doing that? Because you know, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think Sean Penn's pretty cool.
The only other option is that
impressive.
They knew he was going to meet with him, and they used him to get to Chavez, which is possible.
Yeah, you know, this after the first. In a minute, we'll get to Donald Trump because some people in the chat room are asking. But you know, I've been watching
Trump.
Fusion. Yeah, absolutely. I've been watching Fusion, and Fusion, all they do are talk about drug traffickers and narco-terrorism and El Chapo.
And the slave trade.
And
women and hookers.
And they had and Fusion, which is the English-speaking Univision, they sent this reporter to El Chapo's town, and she traveled throughout Mexico, and El Chapo is like loved in Mexico. The Mexican people love El Chapo, like he's like some Robin Hood type character. Yeah, it's really amazing, you know. And you and I were talking yesterday. I wonder if Trump's wall is going to have a big impact on stopping the flow of drugs from Mexico.
It's got to help. It's got to help a little bit at least.
Maybe that's why the liberals are so against it. It'll make the price of their weed go up.
Yeah, they won't be able to get their cocaine so easily.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
I'm serious.
Yeah.
That's why all the actors are freaked out.
Yeah, and then they took you know, funny thing about this, then we'll move on, but just last thing on El Chapo. El Chapo, Pablo Escobar, and all these people, you know, when I was a teenager, I kind of thought people like that were kind of interesting. I don't want to say
kind of like
interesting.
The way we romanticize Jesse James or those guys were murderers too. They obviously didn't murder as many people, I don't think, but they were killers.
Yeah, you see El Chapo, he's running through a sewer. You know, there's no glamour. These aren't these are not good guys. They're scumbags. They're scumbags, and
now,
I don't know why
Sean Penn wanted to meet with him to like he was going to do a movie. You know what I mean? Like I could see him playing him.
Yeah.
I could. You know what I mean? But the guy Judge Alex on Fox said that he's not because they were really obsessed with it on like Tucker Carlson, who's the biggest tight ass in the world, was like obsessed with it, like trying to really figure out a way to get Sean Penn in trouble. And Judge Alex said unless he actually aided and abetted him, there's nothing he did wrong. He said if he met with him, it's one thing, but if you help him hide, but they're investigating it. But you know,
I would guess if I had to bet on it, and I'm not a betting person, but if I had to bet on it, I would say that Sean Penn was working for the government. It's more likely possible. He is than he isn't, and it explains Sean Penn so much. And you know, I must say, you know, if that's true, he's a true American hero because Sean Penn's activism has had a big impact in a negative way on his movie career. You know, he's one of the great American actors. I mean, he's up there with Brando. Yeah, he's up there with Brando. I mean, he's a great American actor.
But I've never seen him do like a comedy. Brando did.
Yeah, he
could
did.
do everything.
He did that movie he made. The movie Sean Penn did with Madonna was a comedy.
Oh, that was Shanghai. That was a piece of garbage.
Shanghai.
I mean, I've never seen him do a good comedy.
What was it, Shanghai
Any movie
Surprise?
Madonna's in sucks, except Evita, which was like basically a music video. That's why it was good.
Well, now I'm worried about Sean Penn because his cover's been blown, and he is in some trouble. Now, listen, we're going to take a break, and when we get back from the break, we're going to talk about President Donald Trump when we get back, all right? You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You can give us a call if you'd like. Our number, 347-945-5112. 347-945-5112. We'll take a break and be right back. As a parent, I know that when it comes to learning, reading is key. In fact, when it comes to education, if a child cannot read, nothing else matters. Youngsters Kids appreciates the vital role reading plays in a child's life, and it's the goal of Youngsters Kids to get kids reading by making reading fun and a fulfilling experience that they will carry with them the rest of their lives. Whether you're a parent, teacher, or child care provider, you will love YoungstersKids.com. YoungstersKids.com is full of educational books and activities. Your child will have fun learning essential growing skills through the exploration of Youngsters Kids. When you visit YoungstersKids.com, you will find creative and exciting books that will set your youngster on a path to reading. Also, like Youngsters Kids on Facebook, Facebook.com/YoungstersKids. YoungstersKids.com. At Youngsters Kids, small minds think big. YoungstersKids.com. If you have hearing problems, you know how precious hearing is. Wouldn't it be great to hear everything people are saying to you? If you could hear music again and not have to turn the television up louder than it needs to be. Having the right equipment makes all the difference. The Savings Mart is your one-stop shop for hearing amplifiers. The Savings Mart carry the quality brands Medka and New Ear amplifiers for seriously discounted prices. Just go to Google and search for The Savings Mart. That's all one word. The Savings Mart.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. You can follow Brian on Twitter and Facebook and listen to archived shows at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian Craig.
All right, we are back. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Kathy, how's my mic sound?
You sound good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. And some people, I just got some messages on Facebook. Now, I'm going to be on the radio tonight at 9 on WWNN Radio, which is the station I'm on. Show, not from our studio, from the radio station studio, which I'm never at. I'll be periscoping from there tonight, and you can, if you follow me on Periscope, you can watch us on the radio.
I'll be there with
Steve Kane tonight, 9 to 11. Yeah, I'm going to Periscope from the radio station.
Is Larry going to let you, or is he going to freak out?
Yeah. We're going to be on the radio with it's called the Michael Blum Show is the show. He's the host. Steve Kane and I are going to be the guests. And Michael Blum's co-host, one is Dr. Janae Lamaski, who's our resident psychologist, and then they have this mental case named Larry, who hates me like the plague.
He might think that if you record him, like it'll steal his soul or something.
He might. Well, he's going to be on Periscope, man, because I'm Periscoping from the radio stations tonight.
Interesting.
So you better get used to it. So 9 to 11, I'll be on Periscope from the radio station. So check. I've been talking a lot. Did a radio show this morning, podcast now, radio show tonight. I guess I got a lot to say. All right, on Periscope, we get a lot of people that really don't understand the way of the world and politics and the importance of a Donald Trump presidency. And, people that don't follow these things don't quite understand. And let me tell you the importance of Donald Trump winning this. There's several reasons. One, Donald Trump, whoever the president of the United States is the leader of the party. Right now, Obama is the leader of the Democrat Party. If Donald Trump becomes president of the United States as a Republican, and I believe he will, he'll be the leader of the Republican Party. And the Republican Party, excuse me, I got something in my mouth. Hold on. Let me turn around. We just ate dinner before the show. The Republican Party is not a conservative party today. They go on television.
That's why they're doing so bad. They're a bunch of liberals.
Exactly. They go on television, they give interviews, they run for office and give speeches and tell us what we all want to hear.
With their high-heel floor-shine shoes.
Exactly. And then they get elected, and they don't cut the funding of Planned Parenthood. They let Obama release Al-Qaeda's worst from Gitmo. They do nothing that they were elected to do. And they don't care because really what it's all about is earmarks and money and donors, and they're all bought and paid.
Trump should, instead of going after Ted Cruz for his birth certificate, which I think is valid, he should also be like, look, if this guy gets in, it is going to be more of the same. He's no different than any other Republican. It's going to be more of nothing getting done. I mean, the guy hasn't been able to accomplish anything since he's been a senator either.
Absolutely. And you know this jerk Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, as an example. They're all like this. These Republican establishment
Eddie
people.
Munster.
They figure, you know what? The conservative base, the Republican base, they don't like this. Well, what are they going to do? They're not going to vote Democrat. They're still going to vote for us.
They're going to vote for me anyway. Well, now they have an option.
So Donald Trump as president is going to break that, which is very, very important because
it's a game changer. It's a game changer. If he wins, it's a game changer.
If the Republican establishment, right now they have all these polls in Iowa that show Ted Cruz ahead. I don't buy it. I think the polls are fixed. Donald Trump said a month or so ago in an interview, if he went down in the polls, he would drop out, and then all of a sudden he's down in the first state when he's up everywhere else. I don't believe the polls.
Let me ask you: is it one poll that Iowa register, or is it a bunch of polls showing Cruz?
No, it's more than one. There's more. I went to Real Clear Politics today, and there's like 4 polls out of Iowa.
I mean, he's well liked, and it's possible.
I don't believe it because Donald Trump, President Trump, is speaking in Iowa all the time to crowds of thousands, and the polls can be manipulated based on who they poll and when they poll and what they ask them. So if the Republican establishment, this is something I don't like saying because
and he's within the margin of error too.
Yeah, I'm on the radio every day, so when I say these things, they can come back to haunt me. But I'm telling you, if the Republican establishment steal the nomination from President Trump, I'm done with them. I'm going to become some third-party independent person because the Republican Party is not a conservative party. They might as well be the Democrats. There's really no difference between the two, and I'm pretty fed up with them. And that's that. And so that's the first thing that makes a Trump presidency so important. Next, when Donald Trump runs around and says he's going to make America great again, he's going to bring America back to the greatness of the post-World War II late 40s and the 1950s. We were dominant in the world. Our economy was booming. Things were on the move. And, Donald Trump, out of everyone running for president, he's the only one that's really created jobs. And he's probably created tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, over his long career in the construction business. And, we really need someone that has that FU money, as I call it, that's not bought and paid for by some lobbyist or some rich guy like Marco Rubio has a big sugar daddy. These guys have sugar daddies. So, there's so many things about Donald Trump. He's no racist.
Well, what I would like Donald Trump to do on his website is take every candidate that's like in the top, like Cruz, Rubio, whatever, the top 5, and list all of their donors and say these are the people that are going to come ahead of you. You know what I mean? So before you get anything done that you want to get done, these guys are first in line. And then he puts himself and he puts first, number one, the American people. I think that would be a very powerful visual because you would have somebody like Ted Cruz or Rubio, and they would have a list a mile long of donors. And he could say, these are the people that are ahead of you. Until you get anything accomplished, these guys come first.
That's right.
And then he could say, he could have his name, and under his name it just says, number one, the American people. And that's it. He doesn't know anything to anybody. I think that would be a really powerful visual for him to put on his website. Just an idea if anybody's listening.
Absolutely. It's a great idea. And, I'll tell you another thing about this Ted Cruz birthplace, okay? I like Ted Cruz. I don't trust him. First off, he's in Congress. And second, he has a bunch of donors, just like all the other politicians that have bought him. So he's also. So I don't trust him. I know he says the right thing, and we like.
They're all alike.
But he's bought and paid for. He has sugar daddies too, just like Marco Rubio and Jeb and all the rest. So I don't trust that. But this birthplace thing, without any investigating to speak of, Breitbart. They have someone that went to college with them that said Ted Cruz went around in college telling everyone he was a dual citizen of the U.S. and Canada. And two, they've got his mother registered to vote in Canada. And to vote in Canada, you have to be a Canadian citizen. I don't,
Right.
I don't know if she was a Canadian citizen. I don't know, but this is what I do know. A couple things. First, if one of your parents is an American, you could be born in Tehran, Iran, and still be a natural-born U.S. citizen. So it's not about him being born in Canada. Just the fact that there's questions about it, and there's already some evidence through Breitbart without really any hardcore investigating that calls into question his eligibility. And if Ted Cruz were the nominee, when it comes into those last couple of weeks before the national election, all this stuff's going to come out. You're going to turn on CNN, and you're going to see documents that show that his mother was registered to vote in Canada. They're going to go to a supervisor of elections in Canada.
But if she was registered
them.
after he was born, it doesn't matter.
We don't know, but it doesn't.
He was born the same year as me.
Ted Cruz is eligible to be the president, but there's too many questions about it. We don't want that kind of baggage coming out on our nominee 2 weeks before the election. That's what costs.
If he's eligible, then why is it an issue?
Because they'll make it one, and because he has that baggage, he shouldn't be the nominee just on that alone. Because look, Donald Trump in the last week, Ted Cruz's campaign has come to a screeching halt over this.
Yeah, it has.
My God. And that's without anyone really they will go to Canada, they'll find the supervisor of election that's in charge of the office where his mother was registered to vote, and they'll interview her on CNN, and she'll tell the nation that to be registered, she said she was a Canadian citizen, so she had renounced her citizenship. I think he's eligible. I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying there's too many questions about it. Look at how it's destroyed his campaign in the last 5 days. We don't need this before a national election. We could lose to this commie Bernie Sanders or God help us.
I have a feeling that if Trump wins the nomination, which I think he will, because I think the polls are way underestimating his appeal. I think they're going to be in shock. I think when he's with Hillary, I'm hoping he has all these little nuggets up his sleeve that is going to keep her campaign constantly on the defensive. Look what happened with him bringing up. All he did was tweet one thing about Bill Clinton, and it is all they have talked about for the last 3 weeks on the news. And you've had callers and people that have watched that are 35 or under, and they had no idea Clinton had this in his past. And they're Googling it, they're reading this stuff, and it's turning them off. They're okay, because she's such a champion of women's rights, and her husband is out planting his sperm all over the place, for lack of a better phrase. Sorry.
Now, all right, well, listen, let's take our break. When we come back, we'll move into some other things, okay? You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Candidates, campaign managers, and activists. It's election season, and when a candidate is running for office, from the local city commission all the way to President of the United States, getting their name etched in the mind of voters is the key to victory. And the best way to do that is to cover the area with promotional materials from thecampaignedge.com. Thecampaignedge.com will provide your candidate or cause with everything you need to win, from bumper stickers to magnetic car signs, buttons, tents, flags, and much more. With the help of thecampaignedge.com, you will have your name or slogan all over town. So when voters walk into that voting booth and look at the names and issues on the ballot, they will recognize yours right away. When you order from thecampaignedge.com, use the coupon code VIP and receive a 10% discount. Go to thecampaignedge.com and start on the road to victory. Thecampaignedge.com. You have heard the Obamacare horror stories. Hardworking Americans like you paying hundreds of dollars a month for health insurance that has deductibles in the tens of thousands of dollars. And they have to reach those high deductibles before the insurance company pays $1 of their health care cost. That's not insurance. People are paying because they think they have to, are afraid they will be breaking the law if they don't, and want to avoid those huge and outrageous fines for not buying health insurance. The government wants you to think you have no choice, but you do have a choice. You don't have to pay those outrageous tax fines. You can say no to health insurance and not face government penalties. Learn how at StopObamacareTaxNow.com. That's right, you can opt out of the Affordable Care Act. When you visit StopObamacareTaxNow.com, you will have access to a free file and video that will explain everything to you. Just say no to Obamacare at StopObamacareTaxNow.com.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. You can follow Brian on Twitter and Facebook and listen to archived shows at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian Craig.
All right, we are back. I'm Brian. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Don't forget, all of our past podcasts are on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, the TuneIn Radio app, and others. Just go to those apps and search for the Brian Craig Show, and also visit our website, briancraigshow.com. All right, and all the info about the show is there at briancraigshow.com. Follow us on Periscope at Brian Craig Show if you are watching us, at Twitter as well at Brian Craig Show. I just saw a story. Trayvon Martin's mom is coming out in support of Hillary Clinton, and a lot of people say big surprise, and this one is one I'm not crazy about because I think the conservatives are wrong about Trayvon Martin, and
I agree.
They're
dead wrong.
About
that
this.
guy, he killed that kid.
Absolutely.
Killed that kid.
George Zimmerman is a fat geek who probably has no penis, or it's very tiny, and he has a lot of insecurities. And he felt like he was playing cop, and he went around with that gun. And he followed Trayvon. You know what? Maybe Trayvon Martin hit him first. Maybe he did. But if you're a 17-year-old kid and you've got some guy following you, I wouldn't blame him for hitting him first. No. It doesn't mean he should have been shot dead. And it was wrong.
He hunted him down. It was a disgrace.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I can't let when they went after him as a first degree.
Yeah.
I told you he's not going to get. I don't know why. I mean, that's criminal right there. It was not a first-degree murder. So I told you it's not going to stick. And they do that on purpose, and that's shameful. And I think the black community has a valid complaint with that. If this was some white kid that was killed by a black guy, it would be a very different story. I can tell you that right now.
And the thing with the reason George Zimmerman, it was here in Florida, and it was upset. It consumed us here in Florida all that time. They overcharged him. They didn't have an eyewitness, so there was reasonable doubt. And unfortunately, there was reasonable doubt.
They overcharged him. They should have charged him with manslaughter.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at George Zimmerman, since he got away with killing a kid, he's always getting in trouble in fights. He's an instigator. And he knows how to instigate. And unfortunately, conservatives got behind George Zimmerman because he was a concealed weapon permit holder. And before all the facts were out, people were afraid, well, if he gets convicted, it'll threaten, concealed carry rights.
This kid was not a threat to George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman got out of his car and followed this kid. And created this problem. And whatever transpired between the two of them, he is responsible for creating this problem and for instigating this situation. And he should have been charged with something.
Absolutely.
Because if he did not get out of his car, that kid would be alive today, no matter what happened. But I think, and I told you this, because I believed him when he was like going through the crime scene and explaining it. I believed him until I heard the audio of him crying for help. When they had the audio of him through the phone, when people were calling the police on the phone, and you could hear him in the background, help, help. I knew that wasn't Trayvon. I knew that was George Zimmerman. And the fight between the two had just started. I mean, it was like a span of 3 minutes where this all took place, maybe 5 minutes. And I said to you, I've seen guys get in fights. When I was in college, it happened all the time. In high school, I've seen guys get in fights. I've never, ever heard a guy cry for help like that.
No,
ever
not
in
like
a
that,
fight.
no.
Never.
Either have I.
And I said it's very suspicious to me that and if he was like getting his head banged in, I saw the pictures. His head was not very bloody at all. If it was getting banged in, he'd be covered in blood. and he would be unconscious and everything. He would not be able to cry for help. So the fact that he was doing that, saying, help me, it sounded very phony to me. And it sounded almost like he was doing it on purpose so people would hear him because he wanted to pull that trigger. I mean, the guy's guilty as hell, and then the way he's acted after the trial, it's obvious. The guy goes out and causes trouble.
Unfortunately, and there was one unfortunate thing that happened, after that, is that Al Sharpton is the one that got charges brought up against him. George Zimmerman put a hole in the chest of a 17-year-old kid, and he wasn't even arrested for 9 months. It was like 9 months, and Al Sharpton, who's a piece of work, and he was a jerk. And
the one good thing he did, because he definitely deserved to be arrested.
Well, broken clock Sharpton there. And then because Al Sharpton's the one that got the national attention, which led to the arrest, that further tainted it because people hate. And the reason, this is the problem with Trayvon Martin's mom now. Unfortunately, I don't even think conservatives have to side with Zimmerman. It seems because people, on the radio. I mean, I know people say, "Oh, you're on both sides." All of the years I've been on the radio, I have never had the audience so angry as they were involving the Zimmerman Trayvon Martin thing. And I don't think any politician running for office as a Republican can side against George Zimmerman. And Trayvon Martin's mom, and she endorsed Hillary.
Well, that's all politics because of the NRA, and that's all. They might quietly agree with you, but that's how politics are. They say one thing behind closed doors, and they say another to the public. They're all like that.
Well, I really would not want a reporter to ask Donald Trump about Trayvon Martin. Because, Donald Trump has the support of a lot of blacks. He has the support of a lot of liberals, a lot of Democrats, and I don't know what he'll say about that. And that could turn off some of the...
He'll say George Zimmerman killed him. He'll say I think somebody has asked him about it. He would say that he was guilty. I guarantee you he would say that.
Donald Trump has said something. Let me see. Donald Trump, Trayvon Martin. Let me see what I
could be wrong, but...
Let's see.
I know they asked... Well, see, remember they asked him about that Sarah Bland, and he said they were...
Okay, you're right. In 2013,
he said they overreacted to her, and a bunch of black people were shocked.
Okay, Donald Trump. This is in 2013. This was December 2013. Donald Trump said George Zimmerman not going to heaven very quickly.
See?
Mr. Trump said that while he agrees with the not guilty verdict, he's less than impressed with Mr. Zimmerman. I don't think that Zimmerman is necessarily someone that's going to heaven very quickly, he said during an interview. Mr. Trump also said the entire case and the central question of whether Zimmerman or Martin initiated the confrontation could have gone differently with the right surveillance, blah, blah, blah. So that's it's kind of taking both sides on that one.
It is.
But
it is.
Yeah. But that's one of those
kind
things.
Kind of a non-answer.
It's taken both sides. Well, let's see what he says now. That was 2 years ago. But I don't want that to be an issue with Trump because I don't know. It's a lose-lose for him. But I'll say, I know this sounds weird about the verdict. There was reasonable doubt because they didn't have a witness. And first-degree murder is hard. Yeah,
just because you think George Zimmerman killed a kid does not mean you're anti-gun. Why does it have to be like so black and white with everything? Why does it have to be like, well, if you disagree with George Zimmerman, you're anti-gun, you're anti-people protecting? That's not true at all. But you have to be a responsible gun owner, which you don't go around following people in the rain, in the dark. You don't go around following children and scaring the crap out of them. I mean, that could have happened to anybody. I mean, this guy, if somebody was, could you imagine if your kid is walking alone and some strange guy comes up and starts talking to you and starts crap with you and he's got a gun? I mean, that's frightening.
Absolutely.
Trayvon Martin should have had a gun, then he'd be alive today.
Exactly.
How come the gun activists don't say that? Somebody should say, well, maybe Trayvon should have had a gun.
This is the kind of thing. I know Donald Trump carries a gun. He has a concealed weapons permit from the state of New York. I'm of the opinion, really, and I'm a strong gun supporter, Second Amendment supporter, but people carrying guns around all the time, I think a gun is more likely to get you in trouble because what happens, I think, And I'm not anti-gun. I mean, I own guns. I'm a very strong supporter. But I think what happens a lot of times with concealed weapon permit holders is what happened to Zimmerman. You know, it's kind of like someone has a few drinks. They call it liquid courage. Having that gun gives them courage to do things they would not normally do. And I've taken advanced concealed weapon permit training courses, very advanced courses, well beyond what you have to take to get the permit here in Florida. And what I've learned, and I didn't need to learn, this is what I learned in the courses, but I knew this before. You don't want to ever use that gun if you have it. You want if you're in a parking lot and someone's coming towards you and you want to get in your car and drive away and call the police. You don't ever want to have to pull that gun. But a lot of people, you know, like George Zimmerman, that gun gets them in a, you know, I've had a lot of people come up to me at personal appearances over the years that have concealed weapons, and they'll show them to me, and they're crazy people that shouldn't be having guns all the time. I've had this happen almost every personal appearance, not everyone, but almost every personal appearance. Some guy, they're conservative, but they're loony too, will have a gun, and they'll show it to me, which is a violation, by the way, and they're violating. You're not supposed to show. It's supposed to be concealed. But they're not – they think they're cool with the gun. You know what I mean? It's just –
Does that make you nervous?
Nah, it doesn't make me nervous. They like me. They're not going to do anything to me.
Well, we were at somebody's house, I won't say who, over the holidays, and Emily was with us. And this is somebody who knows how to handle guns, but they carry their gun around with them everywhere, even at home. They wear it on their hip. I didn't know this. And we were at their house, and you, asked him about it, and he pulled it out, and you guys were looking at it, and it made me extremely nervous for you guys to be handling a gun with our daughter in the same room. I know, but accidents happen. I did not like it, and I thought it was a stupid thing to do. Accidents do happen. I didn't like it at all.
With guns. If there's anyone you can trust with a gun, it's me. I am overly cautious with guns.
It doesn't matter.
Around.
Accidents happen, and it wasn't your gun. It was somebody else's gun. So I just don't think bringing them out in the open is ever a good idea. I think they're meant to be used if your life is in danger. And that's it. I don't think they're meant to come out and be looked at and played with or toyed with or handled. I just don't agree with that. They're very dangerous. I mean, people get accidentally killed all the time.
I'm not going to answer yes or no on this because I think it's better to have the mystery. But people always ask me if I carry a gun, and I say maybe, because concealed weapon permit holders, most don't have them all the time. It's better to have a little mystery about it than say yes or no. But I'm not saying that people shouldn't carry guns and have concealed weapon permits. I'm just telling you there are a lot of George Zimmermans out there that, getting a concealed weapons permit is a little too easy. In Florida, you take a course, and these courses, sometimes they're very, very good. But I've seen courses. I've seen concealed weapons permit courses that are like an hour long. You sit there, you never fire a gun, you never hold real bullets or anything, and boom, you're out there carrying a gun on the street. I've been around guns my entire life. Okay, I've grown up with guns, and so I know guns, and I respect guns, and I'm pretty well educated and trained when it comes to them because I've owned guns since I was 12 years old. But a lot of times I'll go to a gun shop, and there'll be some guys that are like, that just think they're so cool, and they'll buy the biggest, coolest looking gun they can possibly buy.
So do you think they should have gun laws restricting more intensely who gets guns?
I think for the concealed weapon permit, there should be more training. Having a gun at home is one thing, but I go to gun shows and I see guys buy guns that have no experience with guns, and they'll buy like a freaking cannon, and they don't know what they're doing with that. And let me tell you, to walk around with a concealed weapon without any real training, the training you get, it's just not. I'm not talking about restricting ownership, but to carry a gun around wherever you go, there should be some training. I mean, some more intense training. And the classes that you take here in Florida just are not good enough. I'm sorry. And you say things like this, and then people, oh, you're a lib. I'm no lib, but like today, I was driving to the eye doctor with our daughter, And these two guys, they're like 18 years old, maybe 25. They're racing. One's in a Mustang, one's in a Dodge Charger, and they're going like 120 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone just down the street from our house. And guys like that are so irresponsible go in and buy these massive guns and carry them around everywhere, and they just don't have the experience, the training, or the judgment.
Right.
Okay? And that's the way of it. All right, listen, we'll take another break. We'll get back, and we'll move on to some other things. All right? You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll take a break and be right back after this. If you're in business, you need a website. If you don't have a website, you're not in business. In fact, your website is the lifeblood of your business. Not only is it the first impression you make with potential clients, it's also how your current customers view you. MyLaunchKits.com understands this and offers web hosting services that are fast, secure, and managed by dedicated professionals. MyLaunchKits.com is your launchpad for success and handles everything you will need for your company's website. From web hosting and design, designing your e-commerce site, search engine optimization, web hosting for Linux, WordPress, and Windows, and much more. When you're a client of MyLaunchKits.com, you will have a free domain name, fast, reliable servers with a 99.9% uptime guarantee, 24/7 customer support with our experts who are available to assist you the moment you need them. And our services are priced to fit any company's budget. Boost your business potential with MyLaunchKits.com or call 800-264-3269. Are you interested in real estate? Maybe you're a flipper, an agent, or buyer. Whatever your interest, you have to check out the YouTube channel, I Love Real Estate Stories. Andy McFarland, he's the host. Andy is a full-time wholesaler, flipper, and landlord out of Salt Lake City. His brother Jason McFarland is a real estate investor and documentary filmmaker. The two of them have put together this awesome YouTube channel for anyone looking to make money in real estate. Their goal is to provide inspiration and education to those interested in real estate. In fact, everyone, even if you're not involved in real estate, will love I Love Real Estate Stories on YouTube. It is incredibly entertaining. Andy, he's a real estate pro who will give you lots of great information. When you watch I Love Real Estate Stories, you will learn how to improve your real estate business, how to get more deals, and learn how to do more for your clients, which means more deals and more money for you. Simply visit youtube.com/users/I Love RE Stories. youtube.com/user/I Love RE Stories. Andy uploads new videos every week, so make sure you watch and subscribe. youtube.com/user/I Love RE Stories for the I Love Real Estate Stories YouTube channel.
I'm back!
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida.
The great story here is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
You can follow Brian on Twitter and Facebook and listen to archived shows at briancraigshow.com.
What difference at this point does it make?
And now, Brian Craig.
I'm back!
All right, we are back. You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Welcome back. Visit our website, briancraigshow.com. All the different ways to listen to this program are listed there at briancraigshow.com. You know, America has been attacked here in the homeland by ISIS on, well, a couple of occasions. We had San Bernardino. These aren't the only Muslim terrorist attacks, but we've had ISIS was responsible for the San Bernardino attack. They took credit for it. And we're still looking for the third terrorist, by the way. The early report said there were 3 gunmen in San Bernardino. They only got 2. What happened to the third one? And ISIS attacked this cop in Philadelphia. And this guy in Philadelphia was wearing Muslim clothing, complete Muslim clothing. When he was apprehended, he pledged allegiance to ISIS, according to the detectives that interrogated him. And the homeland of the United States, we are under direct attack from ISIS, and our government the president and the media refuse to even acknowledge it. And, I know they have a narrative and an agenda, but, I mean, give me a break. Yeah, the mayor of Philadelphia said he doesn't even know if it was ISIS. Well, I'm sorry, the mayor of Philadelphia, the police chief of Philadelphia, who had the press conference the day of the shooting in Philly, came out and said it was, okay, when he said he pledged. The guy was wearing Muslim clothing and pledged allegiance to ISIS. And the mayor of Philly and Rachel Maddow, Boys Don't Cry on MSNBC, still don't know what the motive was, or if it was Islamic, or if it was ISIS and all this stuff. I mean, my God. This is insane.
Well, this is why nobody watches MSNBC, because they are known liars, and they will sit there and lie right to your face on TV, and they think that people don't realize it, but they do, and this is why their ratings are in the toilet, because nobody likes to be lied to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is another reason that having Donald Trump as president of the United States is so important. We have had many terrorist attacks by Muslims, by Al-Qaeda, by ISIS in this country. The Pamela Geller cartoon contest, the Philly cop, the San Bernardino, the Dal Hassan. There was that stabbing at the University of Southern California, the recruiting station, those cops in New York that were shot in their cruiser in the back of the head. That was a Muslim terrorist attack. The Oregon, somebody said in the chat room, that a college shooting in Oregon, and I'm sure there were others. That's just 5, 6, 7, 8 that I just off the top of my head. And the people that are running this country, not only do they refuse to acknowledge that ISIS attacked us in Philadelphia over the weekend, but they want to bring more of them here through these refugees. Over the weekend I was watching, Kathy, yesterday on the news, a lot of news in Europe. There were a huge protest of women in Finland and in Germany. These Syrian refugees have been sexually assaulting women.
Right.
And,
I read that. But
you
know what liberals will tell you? What do you think a liberal will say?
I don't know. What will they say?
Well, people get raped here anyway. Plenty of Americans rape women too.
Of course. See, this is what they don't get when they say.
So what's the big deal they would say?
Yeah, that's right. What liberals say, like with the illegal immigrants from south of the border. Well, you're going to stop someone traveling across the border from Nebraska over to California. Right. And I always tell them, this is kind of like Philip K. Dick's book Minority Report that they made in the Tom Cruise movie. It's like the division of pre-crime. These are all crimes that, if things were handled properly, these were preventable crimes that never should have happened. And I'm watching the news coverage, both on CNN and MSNBC, of these women protesting in Germany about these rapes by the Syrian refugees. And if you were watching, you wouldn't even know why they were protesting, really. I mean, they were very vague about it. Every once in a while it would come out, but it was almost like an afterthought. It wasn't the main focus. And this is what my opinion has been this. Since these refugees started pouring into Europe, I believe, as does Donald Trump, that it's a Muslim invasion. And I think it's rather obvious. And the rape...
Well, I got to say, I got to interrupt you real quick. Yeah. The next debate is going to have 7 people, and Jeb Bush is moving towards the end. He is now on the end.
He's going to fall off the stage. Yeah.
That's what Trump said. He is
going to fall off the stage.
What's his face with the curly hair is gone. He's off.
Rand Paul.
Jeb Bush is now on the end where Trump said. He said, you're just going to keep moving down until you fall off.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I can't wait to see the day when Jeb Bush must be just, and Karl Rove and those guys must be in complete shock that he is not doing better. And has really, I don't know how much of it has to do with Trump, because there's a bunch of other guys in front of him other than Trump, but people just don't like his brother. That was the big problem, is his brother started an entire war that we did not need to get into and started this problem. And people and his father was anything special. People are just sick of the Bushes now. Why they're not the same sick of the Clintons? I think because she's a woman. I think she is doing as well as she is. Honest to God, because she's got a vagina, and a lot of women want to vote her in. That's the only reason. If she was a man, she would not be doing well.
The thing is with Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton has his problems, okay? But Bill Clinton, before he was president of the United States, and I'm not defending Bill Clinton because he did bad things when he held these offices, but he had some experience. He was Attorney General of Arkansas. I know that he raped Juanita Broaddrick. You know, we had her on the show when he was Attorney General. But he was the Attorney General of Arkansas. He was at least a 2-term governor of Arkansas. So he had some experience. Hillary Clinton was, you know, like, for example, if you and I were going to fly on an airplane today, would we want the pilot to fly it who went through the training, or would we say, let's let his wife? She's seen him fly for years. Let's let the wife fly us.
Exactly.
You know, Hillary Clinton has zero experience doing anything, and this whole idea that, you know, I remember we talked about this a lot on the show back in '93 when the first year of the Clinton presidency. Liberals and the media would say, oh, with the Clintons you get 2 for the price of 1, and it's a co-presidency. And it was always portrayed that Bill Clinton was this redneck, hick, hillbilly Bubba, and the brains of the family was Hillary. Well, it's the other way around, isn't it? I mean, Hillary is not that bright. You see her in these on television. She is not a smart woman. In fact, I'm pretty shocked at how unsophisticated she is.
Well, it's hard to say because she never talks or does interviews or anything. She's just avoiding. She constantly avoids questions. She constantly avoids the press. I mean, I don't know how long they expect to give her a pass on these things where she's not in a controlled environment where she just goes out and makes speeches. I mean, she's eventually going to have to be held accountable. And when you see her feet to the fire, what's really going to be good, I hope it's her and Trump, because I'm really hoping she holds her feet to the fire, and you're really going to see an ugly side of this woman, because believe me, most of her is ugly. There's very little of her that's not.
When she loses to President Trump, Hillary Clinton, you know, as a liberal, she'll take no personal responsibility, but she'll blame Bill. She'll blame Bill.
The Inquirer predicted that she will not win the presidency.
Oh, no. God help us if she does.
The Inquirer psychics, 3 of them. They have all their list of predictions, and they said Hillary will not win. That's all they said about it. She will not become president.
Well, that'd be great.
So the Inquirer is always right.
You know, and I love how the media, Trump can't beat Hillary, even though he beats her in all the matchups in the polls. Hillary lost to Obama, and he was a nobody when she lost to Obama. He was a nobody. You know, she's been beaten before by a nobody.
Well, I love when Chris Matthews, he's like, well, nobody can beat Hillary, and then somebody on his panel said, well, somebody did before, and he was speechless. He didn't know what to say.
It never even occurred to him because they forgot.
Because Chris Matthews he thinks he's smart, but he's dumb as hell.
Yeah, I'm not.
He's in his own world. He's just in his own world. He can't think outside of his own little bubble. And he's very limited. Very limited.
Oh my gosh! I better wake up. I'm gonna have to take a shower to wake up if I want to be on the radio at 9:00. I got to meet Steve Kane like in an hour. Yeah. You know, the thing with Chris Matthews, I remember when MSNBC was new. Chris Matthews wasn't as far gone as he is now. He's always been a Democrat and a liberal, but he was more together than he is now.
But I feel that's happened to the whole party. Like, I feel the whole party. And even Republicans, everybody has shifted to the left. Like, politics in general on both sides has just had a massive shift. The Republicans now are like Democrats, and the Democrats are like freaking communists. I mean, I feel like everybody has just shifted to the left, and I think that's why people like Donald Trump so much, is because he is, you know, truly more conservative. I mean, he's more middle of the road on some things, but on what really matters to conservatives, he's pretty tough. I mean, he's pretty right-wing.
Well, you know, listen, when you MSNBC is just, it got corrupted, like, you know, with Obama. It's just some of the people, I mean, they've got this Lawrence O'Donnell who says he's a socialist, you know, and you've got this Boys Don't Cry Rachel Maddow, who I can't stand. I mean, she dresses like, you know who Rachel Maddow looks like? She looks like the woman in Just One of the Guys when she was dressed up as a boy. Doesn't she a little bit?
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
very unappealing.
I mean, they've got this collection of just dysfunctional freaks. And this morning show, I don't get to watch the morning show too much because it's on when I'm on the radio, but the way that Joe Scarborough abuses Mika Brzezinski is, I don't like Mika Brzezinski, but she is really an abused, battered person by him.
Well, she's dumb because she puts up with it and she just sits there and giggles at him and laughs. She thinks it's cute.
They pay her $3 million a year, so I guess that gets her through it. But
she's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, well, the way Joe Scarborough is with her is it's really abusive. I've never seen anything like it.
She really doesn't. She seems happy.
Every day. It's every day that I've seen the show. Well, listen, we're all out of time now. Follow me on Periscope because I'm going to in an hour and a half I'm going to be on the radio from the radio station. And those of you that are regular listeners and viewers, you've never seen the radio station because Steve Kane's show, we have the Adams World Studio we broadcast from. I'm going to be at the radio station. It's the Michael Blum Show from 9 to 11 p.m. I will be broadcasting it on Periscope, and this should be a lot of fun. So that'll be later on tonight. Take care, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. You're listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. All of our past episodes, including this one later tonight, are on iTunes. So go to iTunes and search for The Brian Craig Show. All our past episodes come up. We're on a lot of other places, too. TuneIn Radio, Stitcher Radio, and many others. Go to BrianCraigShow.com, and most of the ways to listen to this podcast are listed right there at BrianCraigShow.com. All right, thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll be back with a new show later this week. Take care. Don't forget, follow me if you're watching on Periscope.
Geico presents sharing versus oversharing. Today, Bridget Griffin shared a video of her daily yoga routine, 2 self-help articles, and her new blog called Build Your Inner Bridge with Bridge. Girl, your sharing has turned into oversharing. No worries, Bridge. Geico has some info worth sharing with your 7 blog followers, like how you could save money on your car insurance, update your policy, and report a claim just by visiting Geico.com. How's that for building your inner bridge? Bridge? Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.